in chapter 2, verse 45, it was stated that the subject matter of the Vedas is to not only to help you to develop the right mindset, but also you have to eventually come over that mindset. So we talked about the three gunas, which we call the Traigunya Vishaya, which is the subject matter of the three gunas. And why does the Veda bring up the three gunas? It is not for reasons of getting educated philosophically. It's to help you see what kind of a mindset, what kind of a life, what kind of a general thinking pattern you need to eventually come to a point and say, I am much more than this bright, intelligent, discerning mind. So it's really interesting that we're developing an intelligent mind only to transcend the intelligent mind. However, you cannot do that with an unintelligent mind, like a tamasic mind that is obsessed with, suppose, shortcuts, or it makes errors, or it is lazy. It doesn't want to put a lot of work or effort in there. You cannot transcend that mind with that kind of mind, because that kind of mind doesn't think. That kind of mind doesn't want to put in the work. That kind of mind will make an error somewhere along the equation when we discuss the teaching. Nor can you say that if I have suppose a more of an active mind, a passionate mind, a mind that is likes and dislikes prone. So it likes to put a lot of, protect its life in the name of what is it that I like and what is it that I don't like? What is it that, attracts me and what is it that absolutely repulses me? And being very adamant about maintaining a lifestyle, about making more things that are attractive and flowery, and doing whatever you can to push things away. So it becomes a very busy life to do that. So with that kind of a mind, it's also not possible to transcend that kind of a mind because it's too busy surrounding itself with likes and taking away dislikes. The Vedas talks about the mind that you can understand your truth, which is a sattvic mind. And a sattvic mind, we said, has several components. One of them is an awareness about how much impact are your actions having in the future. So we call this, right, ahimsa, non-injury. So before putting out an action or speaking a word or making a decision, there's a certain cognitive rumination, a certain cognitive projection. What kind of an impact will this have for me and those who will be associated to me? So this means this mind is able to imagine, not just imagine, but postulate a potential future. And what kind of a future would that be compared to the actions that I'm doing now? So it's able to connect the effects in the future and the causes in the present. It's also able to, before making a decision, stop and say, well, what kind of a decision will this most likely be, or what kind of a life, or what kind of an effect will this likely make based on what I've done before? So it will draw from the past and it will say, what can I learn from the past and how can I use that right now to help me make the most informed decision so that I have a brighter future? So the sattvic mind brings all periods. It brings the past, it brings your experience, and it also projects potential futures. How will that impact me or my actions right now? This is a thoughtful mind. You say, well, how is this required for Vedanta? Well, it is very much connected to Vedantic way of thinking about connecting the dots. So it's not just about thinking about the future and remembering from the past. It's that kind of a mind most likely also connects the dots when it comes to Vedanta. Okay, so it's a mind that continues its patterns wherever it goes. When there is relationship problems, it's able to bring the cause and effect relationships. In fact, I'll talk about relationships now a little bit. It's also able to remain equanimous towards physical and emotional discomforts. Why? Relatively equanimous, not how we imagine like a right? A wise person who's completely stoic, unmoving, unaffected, nothing touches me, I'm beyond the whole thing, right? This is, right, it has its place, or it had its place, but one has to come over this kind of thinking, because realistically, this is not how human beings are. We're designed to respond intelligently and to discern what needs to be done. So it's not possible to be completely attached, non-attached, to be completely stoic, unmoved, and just sort of go life, through that. Because what's going to happen is Ishwara is going to, grab you, and it's going to pull you back down to the ground, and it's going to happen somehow. So this is what we call the moment of getting humbled again. A sattvic mind is also about emotional maturity. Now, I thought, or I saw something very interesting during the weekend, and my friend from Germany, Aneta, if she's listening, hello, she showed me some interesting psychological works of how our childhood affects our life in an adult. And I went through those books during the weekend, and I got some really interesting things to share with you to show you how emotional discomfort or emotional disbalance that was formed in the past can severely impact and shape your spiritual journey in the present. So the first one is, I'm not going to tell you the name of the book. I'm just going to go through I picked 4. There are many, but I picked 4. And I just want you to go with me through this and relate and see where you're connecting. I picked these 4 because they, according to me, seem to be quite prevalent in many personalities. The first one is where you develop an avoidant attachment. So I'll do the little intro. The basic idea is that as children, we developed certain ways of coping with the pain. And that way of coping then manifests in your adulthood, and it forms personalities. Well, the first one is avoidant personality, or one that struggles with emotional expression, the one that keeps people, a little bit away. It doesn't feel entirely safe to connect. There's always this little of a distance there. And the way that this develops is that in childhood, you had parents who were emotionally distant, who were not always available when you needed them. Maybe they worked, maybe they just were not learned or taught by their own parents how to be emotionally available. They were dismissive, they were distant, and they were not available when you most needed them. Now, when you expressed naturally as a child, you have this need to connect to your mom and dad, a need to express your pain or want to share something that is, vulnerable. What happened was they, right, expressed this distance, or they dismissed it, or they said something like, toughen up, okay? Naturally, as a child doesn't just feel that need, I need something, I want something. They're going to express it. A child doesn't just keep it inside. No child keeps it inside. Naturally, as a child, a clean slate, you feel, and you express. Now, what happened every time you expressed? They were not available. They toughen up, not available, distant. So what did you learn? You learn that every time I'm vulnerable and I want to express my need for something, there's pain. So how do we then learn to cope with that? We said as a child, naturally, as a child, you want to survive. So you build a unconscious coping mechanism that is, I'm just going to not share, because every time I share, what happens? They're not available. Is that pleasant? Not at all. That was painful. So I'm not going to share. I'm just going to keep it inside and figure it out on my own. Therefore, what kind of a personality does this form in adulthood? Self-sufficient, self-independent. I don't need anyone. I can do this. I can figure this on my own. And what kind of symptoms does this have? According to the research, one of them is that you are uncomfortable sharing your emotional turmoils, something that is emotionally charged, there's this silencing, like I withdraw, I silence, or I just sort of pull back, or I just go quiet. Okay, you're very quiet. You're usually very, kind of expressive. Now you're very quiet. Why? Because there's an emotional charge in that situation. It also makes the person avoid conflict. They feel very uncomfortable in a relationship when there is an emotionally charged situation. They withdraw. When it comes to other matters like around the house or doing the cooking or logistics, it's no problem. We are very much there. But when it's time to ask for help, when you ask for help, you have to be vulnerable, don't you? Now, what happened in childhood? When I asked for help, mom, dad, they withdrew. Therefore, I don't ask for help. So what does this now relate to in the spiritual world? I don't need help. I don't need the guru. I don't need the scriptures. I can figure this out on my own. I am an independent person, detached. I don't need anyone. I am enlightened. You see this? How it transfers into a emotional complexion, into a spiritual justification. And what it says here is that what can we do about this, right? It says the first thing is to name your emotions to yourself. But after you name them, you need to say them to some person that you trust, not to AI, not to the computer, to a face, because there was no parent-child email, or not through email, through face-to-face. And if this is very hard to do, then you find something that's easy, some very simple thing, like how you felt throughout the day, something that's on your shoulders, very simple, share. Slowly, slowly, you come to a point where you're able to share those much more emotionally charged relationship issues that, at least that I notice, this may be wrong, for men tends to be a lot harder than for women. I don't know why, but it seems to be, according to my observation, this one that I mentioned, called avoidant attachment, avoidant personality issues, this seems to be more prevalent for men. Now, another one is called the anxiety attachment. Anxiety attachment is where you have fear of abandonment and you have a need to constantly ask for reassurance if everything's still okay. And the way that this happened was your parents showed inconsistencies. On one hand, they were available and loving. On the other hand, they were unavailable and sometimes not there, distracted. On one hand, loveliness. On the other hand, just not there. Now, what did this do? It created trust issues. In other words, I cannot feel safe because of this unpredictability. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Like, what is this? A child doesn't have any bearings how to manage this. So it created a sense of, I need to overanalyze the situation to stay mentally connected to them. Overanalysis. How did the child cope with this? When they were distant in that second half, then the child overanalyzed. Why are they distant? What does this mean? What could this mean? What did I do wrong? Do they still love me? In other words, the person went inside their head and constantly looked for signs of rejection. What is a small sign that they are being potentially abandoned? Thereby, the symptom becomes that during an adult conversation, one's looking or analyzing for signs of rejection, afraid that they will be abandoned any moment. Okay? And also says they can also cling to an unhealthy relationship because it's better than being alone because of that unpredictability as a child. I couldn't stand that second half of them being distant. I loved that first half where they were there and they were warm and it was all cozy. And so you got so attached to that first part that the moment it left, it was so painful. So you had to cling, you had to attach, and so one becomes needy. They become sort of right? I need someone. I want to stay in an unhealthy relationship is much better than being alone. A potential fix is to focus on things that are precious and valuable to you. Find something that you find self-worth more than just relationships. Some hobby, something that really immerses you, something that you love to do. This is number 2. Now, number 3 comes from a different book, but they're all related, childhood trauma, is trust issues. So what happened here is that our parents said one thing, or parents said one thing, but did they follow up? No, they did something else. So what this discord did was it made you see that I cannot trust my parents. I cannot trust people because they say one thing, but they don't follow through. So it made you stop depending on other people. I can only trust myself because I cannot truly put my, my total control in another person's hands. Thereby, as an adult, one becomes either over-controlling, because to become over-controlling, you're always preserving that sense of everything, nothing's going to go wrong, everything's going to remain right as one complete unit. One avoids commitment or maintains superficial relationships. Why? Because if I go deep into the relationship, what's going to happen? They're going to most likely break that trust. And that's too painful. Superficial relationships. I'm afraid of being let down and hurt. Avoiding romantic relationships. Why? Because the unconscious is saying, most likely, they will abandon me and it's going to be too painful. I cannot trust them. A spiritual statement could be, how this comes into a spiritual world is one says something like, I don't depend on other people. I am self-independent. Everything that I have comes within me. This is a quality of a wise person. And yet, it's an expression of an emotional disbalance. Another one is called autonomy. This causes autonomy problems. Now, this word autonomy, I just called it I have to please others problems. What happens here is that parents were over-controlling and they taught you that your needs matter less and their needs matter more. In other words, my own needs are not that important because your parents always sort of wanted to made it such that you have to sort of comply to what they're saying. So whatever you needed, they always overridden that need. So what did this teach you? It taught you that my needs are not that important. That means this person has a very hard time setting boundaries, because to set boundaries is to affirm that my needs are important. They have a very hard time saying no to situations just to not hurt the other person, because it was a very painful thing to kind of challenge your parents at one time when they were controlling their son or daughter. You have to comply like this according to these rules, and this has to happen in the house, and these are the house rules according to what I say. And he said, yes, 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 yes. They matter, they matter, they matter, they matter. So what happens? The wife or the husband, I have to please others, even if it's not something that I really want to do. They become a pleaser. They avoid speaking up in a meeting or a conversation. Why? Because others' needs, what others say, is always above what I have to say. So they remain generally kind of a, quiet person, potentially. This could be. How does this express in the spiritual world? I am a person of service. I always put others first. And so who is going to be there to whom you do your service? The guru is always waiting around the corner. And thereby, they become these givers and serving the guru and pleasing the guru and doing all of these things. And here, what they say is that to help you bring this back into balance, learn to say no to those small stake situations, because it's hard to say no to big ones. I get it. So learn to say no to those very small situations that are quite easy, and learn to do what you want without asking for someone for permission. Like, hey, by the way, I'll be back I'm just going over there. Just go, do it by yourself without kind of looking for any validation. So why did I just mention this? To show you when we say the word emotional, right, sattvic emotional harmony, there's so much that goes on behind that word. And I want to show you how emotional disbalances can transfer into the adulthood, and they are then becoming these kind of justified spiritual traits of the wise, who's detached, who doesn't need anything, who's there for service, who's above all attachment, who doesn't need people. And yet, what's the real underlying cause for not needing people? Remember the first one? Emotional distancing. It's too painful to be close to people. I fear whenever I open up, someone's going to hurt me. Therefore, it becomes this spiritual mask that a person wears. Therefore, half of the problem is just mentioning it. You don't have to do much about this. Just that we mentioned it out, this is enough. Now, just let your mind think about this a little bit and let it ruminate on this in your own way. So there's no kind of pressure here, okay? So there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we have to bring out. And the Gita is a wonderful platform to provide that.
The part about the last point that you made about the person who cannot say no.
Yeah.
I seem to have that trait, not being able to say no. But it doesn't part of the things talks about the spirituality part, say, put yourself, consider others' happiness or over yours as a positive trait. I thought it did. So
okay. I'm not sure where it says putting others' needs above yours is a positive or negative trait. What it says is having swadharma and samanya dharma, which includes ensuring that your own needs are also met as much as the other person's are met. Now, if there's a mismatch between needs, then you have to make a decision. What is the cost if sometimes we have to make these kind of sacrifices or compromises? Then what is the cost if I keep on, letting go, like Yudhishthira did, to, kind of maintain the harmony because their needs, right, matter. That's what he wants. So I'm just going to let go and not do much. I'm not going to rock the boat. Then you have to assess what's the long-term health consequences that it has on you. And you have to be very clear if you're sort of being this, person who's saying no or unable to say no because you're just trying to help, but where are you coming from? What intention are you coming from? Is it to please another person? Is it how much are you pleased by that also? So what it wants to show you is that it has to be an equal sense of delight. You have to be giving out of delight. If I give out of non-delight, out of mere pressure, then how genuine, authentic is that giving really? Just for
no,
the
it definitely makes me happy when
ah,
I am doing it for that other person. Then I'm not doing it with a grudge that I
ah.
have to do it. So I think then I think I'm not that bad.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
in understanding that behavior is from whatever we talked about.
And also one thing you point out is that it doesn't mean now just because I don't, you say don't say no very often. It doesn't mean you're now 100% under this, behavior.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just a potential indicator to let us know where am I coming from? Let's just give me one more model just to check up my actions. Are they authentic? Are
yeah.
they genuine? Are they coming from pleasing or having to prove myself or, kind of putting this some big, big thing that I'm this spiritual person who's always giving of service? Or is there this genuine, you're coming from fullness? So I picked these four because we generally everyone shares a little bit of one of these, four plus or minus. There's probably not one person that's an exception. However, maybe one's more you than less than the other one. Okay, but generally we can see how what kind of things you have to work through. that it's not just a matter of, these superficial statements like don't desire, be of service, just, serve the guru. Where are you coming from? Where are you coming from when you're serving the guru? Okay, this is the question that's asked.
Basically, ask yourself the intent of your action, maybe that would help.
Yes, and if the intent is it's not authentic, then eventually the pain of that non-authentic intention will bubble up. It will become more and more louder to the point where, and the other person will probably pick it up. And it also helps if the other person is able to bring it out of you. This also helps. But if if you're coming from a place of non-authenticity, eventually Ishvara will deliver you feedback in a form of pain, because that pain will, right, it will just keep growing, and it's very hard to avoid. So if the pain does come, then you don't have to be hard on yourself. No one has to be hard. You can just say, okay, so I've been kind of playing this program in my mind and a little bit justifying that it's the right thing to do, but actually, what I really want is something else. What I really need is a little bit of acknowledgement, a little bit of approval, a little bit of that, that love, support. And I've kind of been not asking for that because I don't want to be a burden for people. I don't want to ask them for help. So now you use that feedback and you make some course corrections to help yourself be a little bit more authentic, more honest. The next verse was 246, and it used an analogy here, which was an interesting one. And it says that the sattvic mind is like a well. And we use this well metaphor saying that a well is very useful until the flood comes, right? So when the flood comes, then that well has served its purpose very well. So now it wants to say that that well is like the sattvic mind. The sattvic mind, you have escalated you have accentuated, you have uplifted your tamasic mind, gotten out of these lazy, notions, non-inquirers, into more kind of dynamic, into more thoughtful. And when it's at that sattvic level, then that very sattvic mind is able to understand the big picture. And when it understands the big picture, it is now as good as a well. It has done its job. Now you don't kind of, destroy the well. You keep the well there. You need the well probably in the future, but it has done what it was initially intended, what it was always intended to do. Why is this significant? Because Krishna reminds us why we are building a healthy mind. Why are we building a healthy mind? For the sake of a healthy mind, or for sake of understanding that my truth and Ishvara's truth is one? You see this? Therefore, I think we know the answer, right? So therefore, the sattvic mind has a huge role in our life. And even after the knowledge takes place, you still want to protect your mind, keep it healthy, and give it positive mental food. Okay. Now, this leads into chapter 2, verse 47. And verse 47 is the big verse, the popular verse, that talks about the essence of karma yoga. Chapter 2, verse 47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma pala hetur bhuhu ma te sangostva karmani.
Your choice is in action only, never in the results thereof. Do not think you are the author of the results of action. Let your attachment not be to inaction.
What Krishna wants to say here is that your choice, explicit statement, your choice is in action only. And he qualifies this with the statement, karmani eva adhikaraste. So karmani eva adhikaraste. So what we need to know here is that human life, your life, everyone's life consists of what's called purushartha. Purushartha in Sanskrit means self-effort. It means power of choice. And this power of choice called purushartha, it gives you three potentials. In Sanskrit, we call them kartum shakyam, akartum shakyam, anyatha kartum shakyam. So basically, I can do something, that's kartum shakyam. I cannot do something, akartum shakyam, and anyatha kartum shakyam, I can do something different. So given this free will, capacity to act, I can at any moment, is there any one moment where you are denied the ability to do something, not do something, or do something different? You can't find one moment without these three. You can always either do something, not do something, or do something different. So this means that no one is stuck at where they're at, because no matter what you are going through, you have Purushartha, where you can exercise these three choices. Now, that's where your power of choice is. However, you don't have any, or not much, not any, but not much control over, once you exercise those three powers, what kind of a result will come to you. That is not entirely in our hands, because if it were, we would be getting what we want all the time, but no one can testify to this. Imagine getting 1 year. Imagine God has this amazing, world. He gives us 1 year where we get everything what we want. And you go, okay, year starts 2025 to 2026. Whatever you want, you will get. And then at end of 2025, right, December 31st, you go, okay, now what? I've gotten everything that I wanted, but now I'm just thinking about more of that. So now I'm distracted about all of the things that I've gotten, right? Then you realize, now what? I want more. So it's never going to end. No matter, even if you get everything what you wanted, still, you can always ask the question, yeah, but what if I gotten that? You can always take what you've gotten and manipulate it and say, I should have gotten, I wanted this actually. You can always make it bigger in your mind. Your mind can always make things bigger than they actually come. Krishna comes down. You can say, oh, I want him to be wearing a different kind of color of kurta. Jesus comes down. Oh, his robe is not white enough. It needs to be whitened. Your mind's always going to do this. It's always going to want more, different, and better. So even if we got 1 year of getting exactly what we wanted, the whole year, ironically, is going to be spent in complaining about not getting what I'm getting, what I really want, because your mind is still there. Specifically, your choice is in actions, and where once you exercise those three kinds of actions, the results that you get is not entirely up to you. Now, the common misinterpretation in this verse is that Krishna is saying, don't worry about, just do your actions. Don't worry about the results. Whatever comes, let that be. It is meant to be. It is your karma. It is your fate. This is how a Tamaguna will interpret this verse. It will look at the story, for example, of the fish, the 3 fish that we said last week, where the tornado is coming, okay? Suppose there's 3 fellas in the house and there's a tornado coming, and one of the fellas says, hey, we have to leave. Like, the tornado is literally coming towards our house. Let's go. Let's save ourselves. The other 2, they don't listen. Can you do something about that? If they're close, if they're loved ones, it's very hard, isn't it? When they're loved ones and they don't listen to you, there's nothing much you can do about it, because you've got a sattvic mind. They may not have that. So you leave. The other one says, oh, I'm going to, when the tornado comes, then I'll be spontaneous. I'll find something. I'll cook something up. I'll go down in a garage, dig up a hole. I'll find something in the backyard. That's the second kind of fish. What does the third fish do? The tornado's coming. Tornado's coming toward. It's going to suck you up. It's going to kill you. Let it be. It's my fate. And that's wise. That's wise for the third fish. That's wise for the tamasic fish. Because what do? They misinterpret the entire verse of what Krishna is saying. Krishna is not saying, just do your actions, do what you have to do, and then don't worry about the results, because the results are already predetermined. That is not what Krishna is saying. He's not saying be indifferent to whatever happens, because it's meant to be. He's not saying Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. That is your fate. He's not saying that. He's not saying that it's all meant to be how you are experiencing it now. If you're meant to die, or just be the person that you are, it's meant to be. It's all just predetermined. He's not saying that. He's saying specifically, you are in any moment given capacity to do something, not do anything, or do something different. Now, how many of those choices did the first fish exercise in the previous story? I'm going to either do something, not do something, or do something different. All three potentials were there for the sattvic fish. What about the tamasic fish? How many of those three were there? Only, I'm not going to do anything. And this is one of the best options for the third fish, isn't it? Because tamaguna is always usually associated with stagnation, immobility, non-movement, non-growth, non-inquiry, non-participation, non-engagement, non-thoughtfulness. And therefore, the moment you present this verse, it says, okay, excellent. I can use this to justify that whatever happens is just meant to be. And yet Krishna is saying, instead, everyone has expectations, don't we? So he's not saying don't expect anything. Is he saying that? Just do your things in this world, don't expect the results. What's your real life experience? Do you just do things without expecting anything? How about this? Okay, so we said in some previous verse, there's three criteria for doing actions. There's jaya, ajaya, labha, alabha, sukha, dukkha. Okay, so who logs on here to be miserable? Who logs on to be a loser? Who logs on to gain minimum benefits? No. Who logs on to discover greater amount of happiness? Who logs on to discover more in myself that I haven't seen previously? Who logs on to be victorious in life? See, it's a universal phenomena. Therefore, we can't say just log on and don't have any expectations. There is an expectation. Thereby, Krishna again says that results are in your hands, but don't think they are entirely in your hands, because you can still, right, do the right action, be informed, and apply that action. But the results are not entirely in your hands because you do not govern the laws. They are impartial and impersonal. What does this mean? It means that if I take this and I drop this, okay? Now, see, where's my control, right? Where do I can do something, not do something, or do something different. While my hand is grabbing this ball, I can do that. The moment I let that exercise, that power let go, what takes over? The impartial, impersonal laws take over. Now, you can kind of influence how this drops, can't you? If I drop it like this, it's going to fall faster because of the air resistance. So you do kind of have a little bit of control, but not entirely. This is why sometimes we, when we launch rockets, at the beginning, 1960s and 70s, how many crashes of rockets do we have? It was quite a common thing, common phenomena. But as we start to work with the laws and understand the laws more and more and more, we have less and less and less crashes of space shuttle launches or rockets. But we still have rocket crashes, don't we? I just saw one recently on SpaceX. So this means that even if you master and you align the technology with the laws, you align yourself with the laws, you can't quite ever get it perfect. So Krishna wants to show you that no matter what you do, you're still going to see a certain amount of, surprise in your life. Now, if a European drops this, is it going to have a different result than when an Indian drops this? Does the law discriminate nationality? Europeans like, stay alive, stay alive. Indian drops this. Is this going to change? Not at all. So the laws don't discriminate nationality. They don't discriminate the person's background, how successful they are, how victorious they are, how happy they are, how unhappy they are. The laws are just going to impersonally work equally across the board. So thereby, what do I have to do as an individual, a participant in this world? Work with the laws. What are these laws that are to be worked with, such as law of dharma and law of karma, which I will get to soon? Once I work with them, it helps me to live a much nicer life, okay? Thereby, what are then the consequences if we don't align our actions to the laws? The consequences could be such as, if you don't understand that these laws are impersonal, they're not there to punish you. They're not there to make you happy or unhappy. They're just doing their job. The gravity doesn't care if I go, and I'm so exhilarated now that this has fallen. Gravity doesn't care. It didn't intend to make me happy. Nor if I drop this and I turn into the saddest face ever. Gravity wasn't intending that. That's my stuff. Gravity didn't do that. So the laws are not there to make you happy or unhappy. That is your own interpretation. The laws are just working impersonally in your life, making all things happen, allowing your brain to figure out your truth. That's what the laws are there for. Now, suppose that I don't have incorporation of these laws in my life. What are the consequences? If I don't know that they are impersonal, and I take the laws as personal, they're there to punish me, I am being, God doesn't like me, God is abandoning me, the world is unfair. What does this do? It produces anger, disappointment, discouragement. It becomes a self-blame situation. The other way, it becomes a world blame situation. One becomes, I'm not good enough. This is all my, what they say, karma. This is all my destiny. It's meant to happen. I'm unlucky. I'm born like this. The other is, the world is unfair. The world doesn't, where's dharma? If there was dharma, then everything should work lovely. We should all kind of get along together if dharma really existed. So it's a two-way situation. And that does not create a very happy mind at all. Both create a dissatisfied mind. The second is that the person will be very kind of frustrated when they realize that the laws are not there to appease you. For example, you have three people. One of them is a farmer. What does a farmer want? They want rain. Someone who's marrying for 7 days, they have 7-day weddings, right? Do they want rain? Torrential rain? Not at all. And then you have someone who just finished their ritual. It's suspicious. After the ritual, I want rain. That's suspicious. So now they have 3 different wishes. How are the laws supposed to contradict? The laws are supposed to now give rain and not give rain simultaneously. Is that going to happen? No. So if I don't understand this, then it's going to lead into, oh God, where's the rain? Why? Give me the rain. It's going to lead into frustration. Therefore, I need to know that the laws are impersonal. They're unbiased and impartial. They're not here to make the farmer happy. They're there to kind of just do their thing. They've been operating for millennia. So they're not going to bend according to one's fancies. If you don't understand the laws, then one would say that all of these laws are just kind of, punishing me. And this will lead me into saying things like, this is my destiny. I have no choice. Into passivity. Why? Because I do not understand the laws. Okay. Thereby, we can see the, the kind of mental, like psychological pressures that get added if you exclude one single variable. And what is that? That I do have a choice in my actions, but I don't have full choice in the results of my actions. Is it personal? It's not personal, because the laws have to deliver for 8 billion people. That's just people. They also have to deliver for trillions of ants. They have to deliver for mosquitoes. Look at this. You have a saint who's doing wonderful works. They have thousands of followers, okay? And a mosquito with malaria bites them. Is the mosquito now, is the law going to say to the mosquito, no, no, don't bite the saint. He's too important. She's too important in this world. They are delivering their sermons and they have wonderful works they're delivering. Is the mosquito not going to bite the saint because he is special? The mosquito will bite the saint, will give malaria to the saint. Now, if the saint doesn't understand the laws, which is probably going to be weird, they're supposed to understand the laws, and they say, no, no, I am beyond all this. You know, God's going to protect me. Malaria cannot kill me. Is he going to pull through? No, the saint's not going to pull through. And if he does pull through, it's not related to him being a saint. It's just related to having a strong immune system. Therefore, the laws don't protect you just because you're a saint. Two people, thief and saint. Whoever has sweeter blood is the one who's going to get bitten, even if the saint is doing the good works. Whoever has sweeter blood is going to get malaria. That's how it is. The laws don't say, no, 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 you're very important, Mr. Saint, and Mr. Non-saint, you're not doing any service to the world. You're just creating burden to the society. We're going to we're going to feed this mosquito to you. We're going to leave the saint alone. It doesn't work like that. The laws are impersonal, unbiased. No matter what nationality, what importance, what structure you carry in a hierarchy, from the standpoint of Ishvara, there is no more special or less special. It is all just operating in these laws.
Yeah, I totally got what you're saying. I just want your take on little devotional interpretation of this verse, wherein it is meant devotionally that you you give unto Ishvara all your karmas. You give unto Ishvara all your karmas, dedicate everything to Ishvara. That's one take I want. And secondly, in what you have explained, I just wanted to know in this impartial laws, as per Karamphala, where does Ishvara's anugrah fit in?
Okay, so I'll answer the second question. So where does Ishvara's grace in Karmapala? So Ishvara's grace is a context used specifically when you apply the right choice, the right actions. You have been insightful in your thoughtfulness. You have thought your actions through, and you have done what is to be done. Okay, so through doing so, you get a nice result. You get something that is conducive for your well-being and somebody else's well-being. Now, that conducive result is what we call Ishvara's grace. So Ishvara's grace is earned through your own actions, which involves doing, not doing, or doing something different. But whatever doing, non-doing, and doing something different is, it's informed. It's not just random doing. It's a sattvic kind of doing. It's a thoughtful kind of doing or non-doing or not doing something different. So that is Ishvara's grace. Okay? So Ishvara's grace is not something that just randomly comes. You earn it. You earn it coming to class, by by learning, by contemplating, by following Samanya Dharma, doing the right things. Okay? Through that, your life starts to unfold, starts to show you a much, much brighter side. You become more cheerful, more enthusiastic. That is Ishvara's grace. In English, we call it luck. I'm so lucky. Are you really lucky? Or how much work has gone behind the scenes for you to be lucky? Therefore, it is work. Okay?
So technically, there has been no grace. Technically, you have earned it only.
Technically, you have earned it. It is poetical language also, you could say, when we say Ishvara's grace. Because Ishvara, the logic behind it is, Ishvara doesn't have a personal likes and dislikes and says, I like Gautam. He's, he's got fancy hair and, clothes. I'm just going to bless him randomly. You, through your own efforts, bring Ishvara's grace. Moksha, we say, is Ishvara's grace. But it's also a mixture of what we say, prayatna, your own self-effort. So Ishvara's grace is always together with self-effort.
You attract it.
You attract it through your thinking, through your thoughtfulness, through your alignment to the laws. Yeah.
And the second part of my question, how do you see it in a devotional way. You give everything, you dedicate every action of yours to Ishvara. I mean, this is a bhakti traditional way of interpretation. How do you see it?
This will be more answered in chapter 12, but for now, what you're saying is called Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, right? Arpana Buddhi, where I'm offering to the altar of Ishvara. So what this really means is that my actions are aligned to Dharma. And that very Dharma that I'm aligning my actions, that is understood to be Ishvara. That's what makes karma yoga devotion. What makes an ordinary action compared to a karma yogi action? In fact, we're not at the right verse yet. Verse 50 will be actions and will answer your question. But for now, introduction is that for an ordinary action that's aligned to Dharma, I'm just doing it for the sake of, right, having my life run smoothly. Now, how is that different from karma yoga action, which is also Dharma? That very Dharma that I'm aligning my actions to, that is understood to be Ishvara. That's the difference. So it's not just, I'm just not doing good, but who am I doing, where am I a participant of? In this world or in the order of Ishvara? I'm a participant in Ishvara's order. That's what makes it a devotional practice. That means I'm never outside of Ishvara, whereas before I was just doing actions for the benefit of myself and my family and the community. Okay, so what specifically makes karma yoga devotional is that you are a participant within this grand scheme of things. You are a bhakta of Ishvara's world, of Ishvara's laws, and you're a participant within this law, within this world, to to give your gifts, to shine the Gautamness in this world. That's what makes you a bhakta. And to whom are you devoting to? Not just a world, I'm devoting to an intelligently put together world. That means Ishvara is through and through this world, to whom I am giving. Before, I was just giving to the world. I was just giving to my parents. Now, who am I giving to? I'm giving to my parent, my mom or dad, or Ishvara in the form of my mom and dad. My child, Ishvara in the form of my child. So now you're no longer just a mom or a dad or an employee or an employer. You're a bhakta. I'm a devotee friend, a devotee student, a devotee teacher, a devotee son, a devotee brother. A devotee of whom? A devotee of Ishvara.
It's really important to simply, in all the tasks that you do every day, is you simply try to, you think about what is the best thing I can do for the most people, including myself, but including everyone.
Ensuring that your actions are, right, keeping with the harmony. It's ensuring that everyone's well-being is preserved and protected. So the more we train our minds to think about the whole, the less we come out of this ego I, this little single individual who wants to protect oneself. So therefore, karma yoga makes you think about a much larger world than just my little community, my little family. There is intricate orders, intricate web of Ishvara's forms and and laws, connecting all forms, facilitating how all forms are working together, how they're engaging together. That web is Ishvara, and I'm one of the participants in that infinite web. Right now, you and I are participants in that web. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, right now. Therefore, to whom are we devoted to right now? We are ultimately devoted to the presence of Ishvara. Presence of Ishvara in the form of Andre, the presence of Ishvara in the form of Gautam, in the form of Asha. Okay, the whole thing is intelligence manifesting as this moment. Bringing this understanding constantly makes you very attuned to the presence of God in all things. Okay? That's why I say before it was just the world. I'm just dealing with the world. I'm just dealing with the room. Now it is an intelligently put together world. Working with the laws involves two things. Number one, where is my power of choice? That is in your actions. And where does your choice end, more or less? In the results of those actions. And what kind of results can you potentially get from any action? It's always going to be 4, more or less. It's going to be more. I get more of what I wanted. This is always lovely and welcome. I got less than I wanted. I got opposite to what I wanted, or I got exactly what I wanted. This is a fact. Any moment you can get these 4. The laws are not there to appease you and give you always what you want and give you more of what you wanted. That's only the human mind. That adjusted human mind who wants likes or dislikes to be, right, appeased. I want life to give me more. I want things to work out. The world is not made like that. Heaven is made like that. So if you want that, you go to heaven. There you get what you want 24/7. What happens often is that we limit ourselves to either of those 3. I can do something, not do something, or do something different. That's where we falter in those 3. So a story, again, could be in, I said this with Ramayana, where Dasharatha was doing a coronation for Rama, right? So Rama was to be king, and right, Kaikeyi came over to Dasharatha and says, I want my son to, right, Bharata to be king, and I want Rama to go to the forest for 14 years. Okay. Now, this was a lot of pressure added onto, right, Dasharatha. What did he do? He says, either I can do something or not do something. Which one did he choose? He chose, I can do something. And therefore he got to her, he gave her exactly what she wanted. So either it is, I can give her what she wants, or I can ignore her needs. But what was his choice? Where was his choice? What would have put an end to the whole Ramayana? The third option, which is, I can do something different. He can say, he can call the subjects over and say, hey, Kaikeyi wants this, her son to be the king. I think it's a little bit of an extreme request. I do own her 2 wishes, but I think, it's Kaikeyi's desire. It's not the desire of everyone. So what do you subjects have to say about that? Okay, so the subjects would say something and they'll say, well, we want Rama to be the king. Bharata is not really, he says he doesn't want to be a king. We can also ask Bharata. See this? So I can ask Bharata, I can ask the subjects, doing something different. So the question is, what is then intelligent living? What does it mean to say living intelligently? It means to ask yourself the question, where is my choice right now? Right now, where is my choice in this situation? Where is my power of choice lie in this moment? Where do I have a choice in this moment? What now? What does this mean? What choices am I not looking at in this moment? Where am I limiting myself in this moment? Where am I cutting myself short in this moment? Where is my choice? What are my choices in this moment? How many choices do I really have? What choices am I not looking at in this moment that are not in my radar screen? But if I were to think about them just a little bit more, where is my choice now? Whatever choice you put in, that's the kind of results you will get. We call it garbage in, garbage into life, garbage out of life. Such as if you, for example, suppose, you see, sometimes we form these fixed opinions about people. And we carry these images about a person, someone that you love, someone at work, someone that you know, and they have these concrete images in your mind. Now, when you go to the person with this concrete image, you load them up. They pick it up. I feel boxed up. I feel boxed in. So what happens is, if we carry this fixed image, then you invoke the irrational person in them. And then you say something like, see, they're irrational. They've been irrational for many years. But then you say, what is intelligent living? Where am I limiting? Like, what choices am I making about them right now? Am I putting them in a box? How else can I look at this person? How else can I look at my deer in this moment? What is something that I can appreciate about them in this moment? What is something that I'm avoiding that is very obvious and that I can appreciate about them that I'm totally ignoring in this moment? So this means as long as we box people up, we invoke the irrational person. The moment we clear up these personal pratibhasikas from our minds and we see them as a flexible, dynamic person who is capable of so much more, you automatically allow them to show a whole different side to you. And that helps you because it makes it much easier for you to now communicate with them. But it starts with you. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of a mental construct have I created towards him or her? What kind of an image am I holding towards him or her? And can I release that? Can I shake that up a little bit? That's where your choice lies. See, Rani, we don't know why people make their choices. There's a lot of reasons. When there is a high pressure situation, right? We can make impulsive choices. We've seen this before. We probably all kind of made impulsive decisions. And then later on, you've looked at your choices and you said, this is not entirely, right, but it was very right when you made them. So what the story wants to show you is that, right, the more you become discerning, the more you become thoughtful, the more you're able to give yourself the privilege of different possibilities, because the Sharatha had how many possibilities in that moment? He had generally two, right? I can either please her and give her what she wants, or I can, right, not give her what she wants. That's what the Sharatha had. Now, what about Kaikeyi? How many choices does she have? More or less one, right? I can either, give to my son happiness, or I can, kind of have Rama be the king. Either my son's the king or Rama's the king, right? Two choices. But how many choices were there actually in that moment? So many more, right? So many more. Even Kaikeyi had a choice for her son. She could have said, I want my son to go and talk to Rama. She could have said that. I want to ask my son, what does he want? That was another choice that she could have done. But what does she choose? She said, only I want what I think is the best for my son. So the idea here is, again, how many choices are you making in any moment? You have so many possibilities offered to you, but we always settle for how many? And then what happens? We limit ourselves to those 2 or 3, and then we suffer. And we say, you see, the world is unfair. So this is why I say, what is intelligent living? Asking yourself, how many choices do I have? Let me look into the matter, and let me allow myself to come up with more options. Because the less options, the more you kind of limit yourself to one possibility. And yet life is giving you so many possibilities, so much variety. And we take this variety and we say, no, I'm good enough for 2. And then we complain. Therefore, what is Krishna saying? Exercise your power of choice. Ask yourself, where does my choice lie in this moment? How many different options do I have in this moment? That is given to everyone. Just like those 3 fish, all of them had a choice to go and move. Only the clear fish exercised that choice. It says, I can do something, I can stay right here, I can shoot the fisherman, or I can just, sort of go somewhere else and save myself. That's what the smart fish did. The non-smart fish, the tamasic fish, what did it do? How many choices did it have in its head? 1. What was that choice? Stay exactly where I'm at right now. And why is that comfortable? Because it doesn't require much work. It's the easiest thing to do. Path of least resistance. Don't have any choices. Why? Because it's very comfortable to remain in my comfort zone. It is comfortable, but it has no growth whatsoever. And yet the human being is given the potential to grow, to evolve. So who is cutting oneself short? Is life being unfair, or is the person themselves onto themselves, cutting themselves short by limiting their choices and then justifying, no, it's just karma. The life is just flowing. It's meant to be like this. Kaikeyi, the whole Ramayana is meant to be like this. Kaikeyi is meant to ask him, and he is meant to give her what she wants. Is this true? Is it true that Dasharatha is meant to give the kingdom to Bharat? Is this all destiny? Is this what the story wants to show us? How it's just a whole thing is just a play of destiny, and Kaikeyi is meant to limit his choices, and he's meant to give her what she wants, and then Rama is supposed to be exiled to the forest. Is this what it's saying? The story wants to show us how we catch up, how we miss what we're offered. We're given so much, and yet we limit our own choices, and then we pay the consequences. And that's how the whole story unravels.
My question is, how do you reduce your tamoguna from your mind
How to reduce tamaguna from the mind.
and increase sattva and rajas, whatever?
Yeah, there's many things. There's listening, there's being more thoughtful, more inquirous, giving yourself some time to think about what's being said. And you have to understand Tama's guna, most favorite topic is non-inquiry. That's its favorite hobby. I don't want to inquire, I don't want to think. Its second most favorite topic is that it loves the concept that there is no free will. It loves the concept that it's all just predestined and prescripted. So this you have to eliminate as soon as possible, because that is the favorite, number one of Tama Guna. It loves the notion of just not doing anything and saying how the life is just flowing and don't do anything, like be like the third fish, right? Just let life flow. That's the trap of Tamaguna. It doesn't like to do things. It doesn't like to be active. It doesn't like to think. So therefore, you have to intercept those two big ones by being more thoughtful about the consequences of your actions. And second of all, be more, more involved in some hobbies or some activity. So if I say to you now, your choice is in action only, what does this mean? And why is that significant?
Because different choices have different consequences, and one must think about which consequence is least hurting or least problematic to others and to you, and most beneficial, and then there make a choice.
What is the criteria that tells you if you are acting from an authentic, genuine, helpful place? What is that? How can you tell if you're coming from that place of authenticity when you put an action into the field? What is that indicator that tells you that you are coming from a place of, right, a well-being, an informed, inquirous place, a helpful place? Like a free will, which we called Purushartha, gives you three choices. So what are these three choices?
Kartum, akartum, anyatha kartum.
Anyatha kartum yashakyam.
So, I also want to say, answer to your last question. What do you actually mean by the first part of the verse?
Karmani adhikarasteya.
Yeah, karmanya adhikaraste basically means you take out the akartum part out of the choice. That I don't want to do. Akarta, you don't have a choice of not, taking a choice of a unaction or a non-action. That choice is not for you.
Yes.
That is what.
So in other words, what you're saying is that by you carrying this instrument, you are endowed this instrument to respond to the world. And the instrument has to, by the nature of it being part of this world, has to respond. But sometimes not responding is also responding, isn't it?
Yes.
So therefore, that's also an option. So now you have to now discern, is that the best choice in this moment to not respond? That's what we're talking about. That's a sattvic mind. Whereas what's a tamasic mind? It chooses not responding for its own sake because it's the easier thing to do. You see the difference? Whereas a sattvic mind, it chooses not to respond because it thought about, in this moment, not responding is for the greatest good in this situation. Okay, why can't we choose results according to Krishna's teaching? Why can we not choose results according to Krishna's teaching?
We have no control over the result. Even if we choose the result, we have no control. Result will come what has to, what is destined. We have no control on it at all.
Yeah. I mean, see, the not at all is you know, we do, as I said, if you drop this, right? It's not like I don't have control how this, I do. I can actually literally position exactly and it's going to fall very different than if I, so you do have some level of control, but not total level of control. Gautam?
Can we also say that pursuance of result passionately becomes your pursuance more rajasic? It is more passion involved when you're looking for results orientation only in your action. It becomes more rajasic.
Okay, yeah. So in the Gita, you would say that Raja is more about looking for what will please me, right? And what will not please me. So you're more kind of agenda driven. So yes, that's another criteria. You're more rajasic. Okay.
It also, doesn't it depend on Ishwara's laws and orders? So you put something out into the field, you can't rely on the result necessarily you want, because there are so many other desires out there that also have to be taken into account.
Good, Ricky. That's true, because you're also in this world and you have to share. It's a shared world, isn't it? And see, for example, something more kind of concrete. Even if you are exercising your choices well and you're very informed and you're doing the right things to become a successful, discerning person, even then you are bound by certain laws such as karmic, the samashti karma. Because if you're born in a country that is making it, hard for you to maybe, have the right infrastructure or electricity, then that's going to contribute to how much your choices can really, what choices you can exercise. If you're born in one country, developing over another country, then you will have some level of freedom in one country over another country. Okay. So that too is going to, or parents, the kind of parents that you're born with, or the family you're with, that too is going to determine what level of control you have over your choices.
Right. So we don't have a say really in the results. We're just the actor, the agent.
I mean, we are the agent. The body mind is obviously a instrument according to its impressions, its life, its choices. But we're not kind of using this to become passive, are we? We're not using this to become passive and say the whole thing is scripted. Suppose you cut yourself. What part of that cut is going to be scripted? The cell repair, right? The cell repair is going to be scripted because there's always going to be a cell repair. But suppose you give a speech to an audience. Are they going to all reply, exactly the same of how you want them to reply? Are they all going to kind of all walk outside that room and follow your instructions exactly how you wanted them to and change the course of their life? No, that part is not scripted. What is scripted? Me cutting myself, that's where the laws go into their repair mode. They will always build and rebuild your cell in the same way. But in other situations, you have to know, where is it not scripted? Where am I? I am a doer. I am a sort of an actor as a person. But it doesn't mean just because I'm a doer and actor that it's all scripted. The doer actor is given capacity to choose, capacity to act, to do something, not do something different. And according to that exercise, how well informed you are based on those three, that is the kind of life that will bless you. So who blesses you with a good life? You bless yourself. Life doesn't bless you randomly. Ishvara is not an entity who is randomly blessing and punishing people. There's no such thing as being blessed or punished. You bless yourself, you punish yourself through certain actions that we do. Now, the question is, why don't we then, sometimes, why do we doubt this sometimes? Why do we say, I've been doing for 30 years what needs to be done? but my life's not working out. And they're kind of messing around and their life is totally working out. That's because where is our idea of cause and effect, law of karma? Maybe 80 years, right? That's our idea. That's how small a mind can see. 80 years, that's all there is to it. But law of karma doesn't stop at 80 years. It is since beginningless time. In that aspect, I can understand. That's why they're sort of doing naughty things and they're still getting their fair share of punyam. And I'm doing good things and I'm kind of going through papam. Okay? So this means we have to understand the laws don't operate according to our time frame of 80 years. They are stretching for millennia. In that sense, I'm neither being punished nor rewarded. I'm simply kind of receiving the results of actions that have started since lifetimes ago. Now, because you're receiving actions since lifetimes ago, does that now mean that just sort of let it go and start to say, no, this is all my, what we call prarabdha, this is all my destiny, right? Results of past actions are all fructifying in my present, and I have to go through this pain. Is this what we're saying? Not at all. We're saying that any moment, whether you're getting what you want, or you don't, or you get what you don't want, still you have a choice. If you get what you don't want, still I can do something about this, not do anything about it and just complain, or I can do something differently. In the Mahabharata, there's 3 stories that wants to show you that it's not all scripted, and they are very explicit. The first story is between Bhishma. So Bhishma was killed by Shikandi, okay? And what happened? What's the story? Well, Bhishma wanted 3 daughters for his brother called Vichitravirya. So Bhishma went and stole 3 daughters. This is how we used to get women. We just go over to the village, we steal the woman and marry them off. Easy. No complications. So he stole 3 women, and one of them was Amba. Now, Amba, once he came back to his Hastinapur, Amba said to him, I've already chosen my partner called King Salva. Take me back. My heart is already being won by another king. So Bhishma takes her back. Now, King Salva doesn't want Amba anymore because she's already been tainted by Bhishma. So now King Salva doesn't want her, so she has nowhere to go. So she goes back to Bhishma, and Bhishma also doesn't want her. She's enraged. Nobody wants her now. So she vows and says, I'm going to kill Bhishma next life. So next life, how did Bhishma die? Well, Amba got somehow transported into a man or, Shikandi. And that's how, was it David who said bow and arrow, okay? So what does this show you? One story shows you what happened was a result of past life. Now look at this. The second story is that you had Pandu who accidentally, through his own negligence, killed a wife and a sage. Now, can you say that the wife and the sage deserved it, and therefore Pandu was just an instrument for what the wife and the sage deserved? No, because then why would an instrument go through the pain? Why would an instrument be cursed if he was just an instrument? So the second story wants to show you that owing to present life negligence, I made an error and the results got back to me. Now, what about the third story? The third story is of Duryodhana constantly violating the rights of the Pandavas. And what does Krishna say to the Pandavas? Does he say to them, oh, Pandavas, you have done bad in the past life. You just have to kind of take this pain that the Kauravas are giving you. You have to go through it. Just, let it all, just take the pain. Is this what Krishna said to the Pandavas? No. He said to the Pandavas, whether this is your past life or present life, it doesn't matter. Do what has to be done. Stand up and set boundaries. No need to philosophize whether it's a past life or present life. This is the situation right now. Deal with it in this life. This is all you got. Thereby, you can't categorically say whether this is just a script that I'm going through, whether it's this life or past life. This is going on. That's a fact. Deal with it. This is the message of Krishna. Therefore, when it comes to dealing with things, there's no need to say, kind of just go and take the hit because it's your prarabdha. No. Look what has to be done, assess the situation and deal with it. Move on. It's simple as that.